Hello BookTube, Books with Banks back again with another video in my ongoing series on beautiful scenes from all throughout Stephen Erikson's Malazan Book of the Fallen. Today we'll be looking at a scene from the very end of Memories of Ice, Book 3, and whereas the first two scenes I looked at in this series only kind of slightly spoiled earlier moments in those pretty self-contained storylines, this scene here will spoil quite a lot of Book 3, so proceed at your own risk and or comfort level when it comes to spoilers. Also, if you're just stumbling onto this video or any videos in this series for the first time, and you're either A, not this far, not up to Book 3 in the series yet, or B, maybe just curious about what else I've analyzed from the Malazan books, please go ahead and check out my channel and other playlists I have saved over there on my channel, and specifically the other videos in this beautiful scene series. So, for this one in particular, again, the end of Book 3, Memories of Ice, to set the scene, we are at the climax of the novel. We've got the joint forces of the Malazan army and the alliance of free peoples and cities led by Anomander, Rake, and Kaladin Brood. This massive military coalition has arrived at the final stronghold of the cannibalistic, disgusting, destructive Panyan domain. So the war is almost over, and all that is left for these combined military forces to defeat the Panyan seer and his Kachan Shamal allies is their final city of Coral on the Genebacus continent. All manner of things are going poorly for these forces, with massive demonic condors attacking the airborne Moranth part of the military force. Meanwhile, bridge burners and the Malazan commander Dujek One Arm, their different units, they're inside the city fighting tooth and nail through Panyan and Kachan forces. Also, Whiskey Jack, famous character from the series, he's just been betrayed on the hilltop outside the city. And then you have the Grey Swords and other survivors of the Siege of Kapistan, a previous siege-type engagement in this war, sort of mid-book climax for this one, Book 3 here. So the kind of survivors from that conflict, including this Grey Sword mercenary company, they're all strategizing how to best approach and combat the city's Panyan forces that are being sent out of the city. So one of these people from that siege who fought through and survived survived that bloody conflict earlier in the book, his name is Gruntle. He is now looking around for a recently retired commander, recently retired shield anvil of this Grey Swords mercenary army. And as I said, the man looking around, his name's Gruntle, and he's looking for where his new friend, this Itkovian former shield anvil character, might have gone off to. We'll start with the first of many scattered scenes pertaining to this Itkovian character, but before we do that, and kind of what Itkovian gets up to at the end here, before we get into that though, one more quick disclaimer, then I promise we'll finally dive into the scene. So as it is originally presented, this whole scene, this Itkovian specific part of the scene is split up by all of those other dramatic events and violent things at the end of the book that I alluded to just a moment ago. So I apologize if my kind of keeping this analysis only to the Itkovian specific scenes kind of takes away from that intentional juxtaposition Erikson was going for. On one hand, you have all of these scenes of violence with the bridge burners, violence with Tool and everything Tonks going through, and then that's all contrasted with this eerie, sort of almost peaceful tone of the Itkovian scenes we're about to dive into here. So, that being said, here we go. I'm going to start with the first section. And again, this is this Gruntle character looking for his new friend, Itkovian. Gruntle's hunting gaze found the man, Itkovian, walking towards the Talan en masse. A sharp cry sounded from the hilltop behind Gruntle, and he turned to see Silverfox straightening from Corlat's side, wheeling round. But the tens of thousands of Talan en masse faced Itkovian now, and Gruntle watched his friend's steps slow, then stop when he was 20 paces from the undead warriors. Silverfox screamed in comprehension, began running. "Aye, summoner, you were about to send them against the K'chain Shamal." Gruntle did not need to stand within hearing range to know what Itkovian said then to the silent Talan Amass. "You are in pain? I would embrace you now." He felt his god's horror burgeoning to overwhelm his own as the Talan Amass made reply, falling to their knees, heads bowing. "Ah, summoner." And now it was far too late. So don't worry, we'll get more into scenes that specifically focus on Itkovian himself, what's going through his mind, approaching this army of the Talanomass, kneeling in front of them, or all of them kneeling, or kind of bowing to him. But for now, I do want to say that the way that this is written, where Gruntle doesn't need to be able to hear what the exchange is, what's going through Itkovian's mind, you sort of have Gruntle just assuming that he knows exactly how that exchange is going to play out. And this is a technique Erikson uses well through all of his books up to like Fall of Light, the most recent one I read that came out in 2016. Where a character is kind of imagining how a scene is, or how a scene's going down, and maybe they can see it from afar, but they don't know the details. That character themselves isn't in, their friend's head. Gruntle isn't in Itkovian's head, but Erikson's kind of using Gruntle's assumption about what's going down to tell us, the reader, what's going down. And that's, in some cases, what Erikson does is he makes it so that description is the entire description we get of maybe some really powerful moments. So it's this interesting sort of perspective kind of idea where Erikson knows that we don't actually have to necessarily be with the action to still get a lot of the dramatic buildup and the dramatic effect. We can just have one other character far off in the distance, assuming he knows what's going on. And through their assumption, that might be as detailed and as accurate a picture as we ever, as readers, get of the scene. Again, it's a really little thing, and unlike other scenes Erikson's gonna kind of use this technique in later, we will actually go in and see what's going through Itkovian's mind. Sometimes Erikson doesn't really let us do that. He leaves it at just this idea of one character far off, observing another, giving us, the reader, then what they think went down. So yeah, that wasn't something I expected to find and kind of pick up on when I went back, and I knew I wanted to analyze this scene, but seeing that there in this kind of introduction to what Itkovian's doing, I thought that was important. Also, I need to talk about the Talan Amass, just in case anyone's watching this and maybe you're not as concerned about spoilers, and maybe you're a little confused about the passage I read there. So to give a real quick kind of context about this undead army of Talan Amass that our Itkovian characters approaching. Long story short, millennia ago, the Amass cursed themselves to immortality to be able to keep on fighting their mortal enemy, this other ancient race, the Jagat. At present, in this book, the Amass are tired and they want to be released from their immortality and these like decrepit, almost zombie-like bodies. And earlier in this book, they had hoped one character would release them from their ancient vow, that's kind of turned into this curse. That character did not do that. They were not released, and so they have kind of been forced to just carry on fighting and living as these zombies, basically in service of the Malazan Empire. And they're held in this living world and in kind of immortal pain, basically against their will. So, moving forward into the next 5 or 6 sections of the scene, Itkovian, approaching them, he's seeking to answer their pain. And while I read through these, maybe I'll also try to think about this analogy that I'm kind of working on in my mind, where Itkovian is to Erikson, the author, as the Talan Amass are to Erikson's characters. I'll elaborate on that further as that might develop, as I kind of think about it while I'm reading through. Again, this isn't a fully formed thought, but I'm gonna keep working on it. Just to see if it makes a little bit more sense by the end. Anyway, back into the main thrust of the scene and Itkovian's real first perspective on his actions here. And it's a few pages later. As I mentioned, other other parts of the battle are playing out in the meantime. Alright, so when we finally get back to Itkovian, here we go. He would embrace them. He would take their pain in this world where all had been taken from him, where he walked without purpose, burdened with the lives and deaths of tens of thousands of mortal souls, unable to grant them peace, unable and willing to simply cast them off. He was not yet done. I'll stop there. Again, just real quick, he was not yet done. I've kind of chosen to title this scene or to name this scene for my own video purpose. At last he was done. There's this kind of there's this idea that Itkovian's kept repeating to himself throughout the second half of this book, where everyone's kind of congratulating, giving him a pat on the back, saying, hey, you were the hero of this climax. Congratulations, you now get to retire. But he's sort of, personally, he's just kind of frustrated about where this leaves him, and he still feels like he has more to contribute to the story, more to contribute to, more relationships to help out, something else to do, and he's not exactly sure. So all throughout the second half of the book, whenever we get an Itkovian scene, he has this internal frustration where he thinks he's not yet done. He still has to do something, and what's that something going to be? That's where we're going to really be exploring here in all of these kind of scene snippets. So, he was not yet done. He would embrace them, these Talan en masse, who had twisted all the powers of the Warren of Talan into a ritual that devoured their souls, a ritual that had left them, in the eyes of all others, as little more than husks, animated by a purpose they had set outside themselves, yet were chained to for eternity. Husks, yet anything but, and that was a truth that Itkovian had not expected, had no way to prepare for. Insharak Ulan, who was born third to Inalthum and Sultha Arad of the Nashar clan, that would come to be Kron's own in the spring of the year of blighted moss, below the land of raw copper. And I remember. A snow hair trembling, no more than a dusk shadow's length from my reach, my child's arm and hand stretching. Streaks in the white, the promise of summer, trembling hand, trembling hair, born together in the snows just past, reaching out, lives touching, small heart patter, slow drum hunger, my chest's answer to the world's hidden music. I remember. Callous Agkor, my arms wrapped about little Jayla, little sister, hot with fever, but the fire grew too hot, and so in my arms her flesh cooled to dawn's stone. Mother keening, Jayla was the ember now lifeless, and from that day in mother's eyes I became naught but its bed of ash. Ulthan, our lad, heard tracks in the snow, tufts of molt. I on the flanks. We were hungry in that year, yet held to the trail, old as it was. Kara's Av, riding Bonecaster Thal's son in the valley of deep moss, beneath the sun, we were breaking the ancient law. I was breaking the ancient law. I, mate to Ibinal Chode, made the boy a man before his circle was knotted. In the year of the broken antler, we found wolf cubs. I dreamed I said no to the ritual. I dreamed I strode to Ono's tool inside. A face streaming tears, my tears. Chode, who watched my mate lead the boy into the valley, and knew the child would be remade into a man, knew that he was in the gentlest of hands. The grasslands were burning, Renag in the horned circle. I loved her so. I loved her so. Voices, a flood, memories. These warriors had not lost them. They had known them as living things within their own dead bodies. Known them for almost 300,000 years. Friend to Onrak of the Logros, I last saw him kneeling amidst the corpses of his clan, all slain in the street, yet the soul taken were finally broken. At such a cost. Oh, heart laid at his feet, dear Lagana breed, so clever, sharpest of wit, oh, how he made me laugh. Our eyes met, Mayanus, Lot, and I, even as the ritual began its demand, and we saw the fear in each other's eyes, our love, our dreams of more children to fill the spaces of those we had lost out on the ice, our lives of mingled shadows, our love that must now be surrendered. I, canning toll, watched as my hunters hurled their spears. She fell without making a sound, the last of her kind on this continent, and had I a heart, it would have burst then. There was no justice in this war, we'd left our gods behind, and knelt only before an altar of brutality, truth. And I, canning toll, shall not turn away from truth. Itkovian's mind reeled back, sought to fend off the diluvial tide, to fight himself clear of his own soul's answering cry of sorrow, the torrent of truths shattering his heart, the secrets of the Talan en masse. No, the ritual, how? Fenrir's tusks, how could you have done that to yourselves? And she has denied you. She has denied you all. He could not escape. He had embraced their pain, and the flood of memories was destroying him. Too many, too fiercely felt, relived, every moment relived by these lost creatures. He was drowning. He had promised them release, yet he knew now he would fail. There was no end, no way he could encompass this yearning gift, this desperate, begging desire. He was alone. Emprantol, you must hear me, mortal. Alone, fading. Hear me, mortal, there is a place. I can lead you. You must carry all we give you. Not far, not long. Carry us, mortal. There is a place. Fading. Mortal, for the gray swords, you must do this. Hold on, succeed, and you will gift them. I can lead you. For the gray swords. Itkovian reached out, and a hand, solid, warm, clasped his forearm. So that was a lot, and I kind of wanted to get through a lot of that passage without breaking too much, just because I wanted, especially if this is the first time you might have heard someone read this, or maybe you haven't read the book in a while, I wanted you to experience this kind of torrent of all of these different memories of all of these different Talan en masse, like those kind of disjointed segments there. Those are all memories from different characters, different people, who lived hundreds of thousands of years ago, and are still sort of chained to this world and because of this immortal ritual they did. But just feeling this torrent and this overwhelming list of all of their memories. Erikson's only able to give us a bit of a taste of what Itkovian's suffering through, but I think it's very powerful the way that he's been able to do that. So that was the second section. I'm gonna go now. The next part of Itkovian's. It's not too long after this, but I'll read this third kind of passage of what he's going through during the climax of the book. The hand held firm. Itkovian began to comprehend. Behind the memories awaited the pain, awaited all that he came to embrace. Beyond the memories, absolution was his answering gift. Could he but survive? The hand was leading him through a mindscape, yet he strode across it as would a giant, the land distant below him. Mortal, shed these memories. Free them to soak the earth in the season's gift. Down to the earth, mortal. Through you, they can return life to a dying, desolate land. Please, you must comprehend. Memories belong in the soil, in stone, in wind. They are the land's unseen meaning, such that touches the souls of all who would look, truly look upon it. Touches, in faintest whisper, old, almost shapeless echoes, to which a mortal life adds its own. Feed this dreamscape, mortal. And know this, we kneel before you, silenced in our hearts by what you offer to us, by what you offer of yourself. You are Itkovian, and you would embrace the Talan en masse. Shed these memories, weep for us, mortal. Again, that's just another kind of powerful passage conveying the weight, the serious nature of exactly what Itkovian is sort of offering by opening himself up to all of these memories, all of basically the pain of the amass. Next, we're going to jump to a fourth kind of section, and this one we're going to take a step kind of back outside of the Itkovian character. We're going to go to a man named Kaladin Brood, commander in the kind of allied Malazan Free City Army's forces, just to see a quick passage of what he's witnessing, of what's going on with Itkovian and the amass, witnessing I haven't really brought up that idea, what it means more than just like on a vocabulary level, but what it means thematically for Erikson's Malazan Book of the Fallen series, to witness something or someone doing something grand or heroic or compassionate or larger than themselves. But I do love that he has this one paragraph from this commander's point of view, from Kaladin Brood's point of view, where Brood kind of observes, it reads, "The Talana mass and their tens of thousands still kneeled motionless before Itkovian, who had himself sunk down, a mortal reflection of them. Whatever was happening there had taken them all far away to a place from which it seemed there would be no return, not in any case until it was far too late. No choice." So yeah, again, just a real quick scene there of another character, prominent character, witnessing this great kind of mysterious action that Itkovian's performing. Then another quick scene a little bit later on that only furthers to convey the weight of what Itkovian's doing, and really brings us readers back into this really emotional kind of place that he's sitting with, and that he's kind of sharing with these, tens of thousands of undead people in front of him that he's doing this thing for. So this fifth section, this passage reads, "Memories gone, in their wake tens of thousands of souls, silent. To me, then, I will take your pain now. You are mortal. I am mortal. You cannot carry our pain. I can. You cannot deliver it. I shall. Itkovian. Your pain, Talana Mass, now." It rose before him, a wave of immeasurable height, rose towering, then plunged towards him, and they saw, one and all, they saw Itkovian's welcoming smile. Okay, so that was the fifth kind of section there. Sorry, I'm gonna move something a little bit here. Finally, this one last section, it contains an oft-quoted and I think sometimes misunderstood passage. I mentioned in one of my other videos that Erikson is rarely, if ever, I believe it was in one of my Kirkanis videos, but Erikson is rarely, if ever, prescriptive in his presentation of any certain ideologies. And so this final section, bringing Itkovian's whole kind of final scene here to a close, it's all about compassion. Compassion being a word that is often bandied around as being really important to the series. It definitely is very important. But I think all we can say about Erikson for certain is that he wants to encourage readers to maybe practice at least a little more empathy and compassion in their daily lives. That being said, I don't think this passage is really Erikson telling us to be more compassionate. I think the main purpose here, and I think sometimes people will take some quotes from here to say, oh, Erikson's saying people aren't compassionate enough. Look at this quote, everyone needs to be compassionate all the time. Everything's redeemable, everything's forgivable. I think that's a little bit of a misunderstanding. I think the main purpose here really is just to raise questions about the limits of an individual's capacity for compassion. And that's really, again, Erikson's never really prescriptive. He just wants to bring up these ideas to start conversations about things. He doesn't want to tell anyone to be any nice. He doesn't want it to be like, I would be surprised if Erikson is passing too much judgment on the collective human race or in any kind of sense like that. I think he's just kind of asking people to consider certain things and themes a little bit more than perhaps they had before. So with all of that in mind, here we go, the kind of closing part of this Itkovian scene here. Benediction godless, he could not give it, not in its truest form. But he had not comprehended the vast capacity within him, within a mortal soul, to take within itself the suffering of tens of thousands, the multitudes who had lived with loss and pain for almost 300,000 years. He saw faces, countless faces, desiccated, eyes nothing more than shadowed pits, dry, torn skin. He saw bone glimmering from between layers of root-like tendons and muscles. He saw hands, chipped, splintered, empty now, yet the ghost of swords lingered there still. He was on his knees, looking out upon their ranks, and it was raining, a wavering deluge, accompanied by reverberating groans, splintering cracks filling the darkness above. He looked upon them, and they were motionless, heads bowed. Yet he could see their faces, each face, every face. I have your pain. Heads slowly lifted. He sensed them, sensed the sudden lightness permeating them. I have done all I am able to do. Yes, it was not enough, I know. Yet I have taken your suffering. You have taken our suffering, mortal, into myself. We do not understand how. And so I will now leave you. We do not understand why. For all that my flesh cannot encompass, we cannot answer the gift you have given, I will take with me. Please, mortal, somehow. The reason, please, that you would so bless us. I am the mortal? Your pardon, sirs, you wish to know me? I am a mortal, as you say, a man born 3 decades ago in the city of Erin. My family name, before I surrendered it to Fenner's Reeve, was Otenthalion. My father was a hard, just man. My mother smiled, but once in all the years I knew her, the moment when I departed. Still, it is the smile I remember. I think now that my father embraced in order to possess, that she was a prisoner. I think now that her smile answered my escape. I think now that in my leaving I took something of her with me, something worthy of being set free. Fenner's Reeve, in the Rev, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. In the Rev, I wonder, did I simply find for myself another prison? She is free within you, mortal. That would be a good thing. We would not lie to you, Itkovian Otenthalion. She is free, and smiles still. You have told us what you were, but we still do not understand your generosity, your compassion. And so we ask again, why have you done this for us? Sirs, you speak of compassion. I understand something now of compassion. Would you hear? Excuse me. Speak on, mortal. Speak on, mortal. We humans do not understand compassion. In each moment of our lives, we betray it. We know of its worth, yet in knowing, we then attach to it a value. We guard the giving of it, believing it must be earned. To land a mass, compassion is priceless in the truest sense of the word. It must be given freely in abundance. We do not understand, but we will consider long your words. There is always more to do, it seems. Again, hearkening back to this "I am not yet done" thing he keeps repeating. There is always more to do, it seems. You do not answer our question. No. Why? Beneath the rain, as darkness gathered, with every face raised to him, Itkovian closed himself about all that he held within him, closed himself, then fell back. Because I was the shield anvil, but now I am done. And beneath the moon's torrential rain, he died. Whew, gives me chills just thinking about how emotional I was the first time reading it, and just even going back through these passages now. It's a very emotional scene. Just specifically with that last passage before I go into my kind of overall thoughts and return to that analogy I was kind of considering at the beginning. I want to point out how these tens of thousands of people and their leaders specifically, they're basically asking Itkovian here, why are you freeing us of our pain and our burden of, living these chained lives to the mortal realm? Why are you freeing us of this? This is such a generous thing. You must be such a grand person, such a heroic person. This is larger than anyone, and you're doing something so incredible, so there must be some kind of incredible answer. And when they're asking him this, the only thing he really gives to them is this kind of personal backstory anecdote that, in my mind, at least when I read through that, it reflects a lot to me the sort of memories that he was getting from the Amass. So if anything, he's basically saying, I think he's saying, Itkovian saying, I am one of you, I had my backstory, I had my history, that's who I was. Now I have this great gift of knowing who all of you are. All of your pains, sure, but all of those memories were not necessarily painful. And he doesn't really answer. Again, he Itkovian, and through Itkovian Erikson, doesn't give any answers about his compassionate response to such a multitude of people and souls. He just throws out this idea, throws out this thing for the amassed to think on and ponder, as they say that they're going to think about his words. But again, they didn't really get the answer they were looking for, just questions about compassion. So yeah, I think a beautiful way to end a character arc, to end this particular storyline in the third book, Memories of Ice. And after all that, really, what have we learned? What do we think Erikson was trying to do with the character of Itkovian in Memories of Ice? Well, first and foremost, I am still comfortable with my assumption that Itkovian is in many ways a sort of self-insert of our author here. Importantly, not of our narrator though, but I don't want to say more on who the narrator really is in these books, because I don't want to get into spoilery territory for like the whole series. But I digress. Basically, Erikson and Itkovian, I think, both deliver this epic siege defense climax in the middle of the book, right? And then for the rest of the novel, Itkovian is kind of channeling Erikson's mindset and feelings that not only is the character not yet done with whatever he has to do, but Erikson is also not yet done telling this story. There's still half a book to go. And I wonder if this could be a sort of expression of Erikson's creative process. Perhaps Erikson was building towards the climax of the siege at Capistan, and once that was over, he knew he was nowhere near the end of exploring the themes and concepts and character arcs he was interested in with this particular volume. So Erikson, like Itkovian, kind of felt this perplexing need to push onwards, even though everyone around him was maybe telling him how great and final a thing he had done at that siege, what a heroic, awesome thing, and now he deserved to relax. He was done, good. But both character and author, they feel this need to do more for the narrative and more for the character. And so then that brings me to how Itkovian shouldering the pains of the amass, I think, is similar to Erikson kind of shouldering the pains of all of his characters and carrying with him all of their backstories, their memories, their pains. And I think I have at least talked myself into believing this analogy that I came up with at the beginning of the video. But that being said, this is one of my least well-formed analysis ideas so far. However, I think similar to how Erikson isn't saying anything definite about compassion here, I'm personally not yet ready to say anything definite about the Itkovian character's finale. So, all that said, thank you so much again for checking out this deeper analysis video, and I hope I've been able to kind of clearly demonstrate what is so emotionally evocative about this particular scene. I will be putting this video in the playlist with the ones I've already done for Gardens of the Moon and Deadhouse Gates. So if you haven't checked those out yet, please head over to my channel and check out all the different Malazan content I have over there, and the different playlists to see if there's something more specific to your Malazan interests that you might be interested in. As always, if you haven't already, it would mean a lot if you could like, subscribe, share this video if you want to help support me and help me keep this series going. My next video will be analyzing a rather painful yet beautiful scene from around the middle of book 4, House of Chains. I've got it annotated a little bit there. And I am kind of playing with the idea of calling this scene or titling it something along the lines of A Child's Sense of Duty. But yeah, thank you so much, as always, for watching, and please have a good day. Bye.